If you were born before 1967 or you receive Social Security right now, there is a change happening in 2026 that touches your check, your claiming age, or the income limit that decides whether Social Security withholds part of your benefit. In the Social Security Administration's own example, one claiming decision creates a gap of $303,616 in smaller monthly checks over 20 years. That number is public. It is sitting on the SSA website right now. But nobody from the government calls your household and explains which of the 2026 numbers applies to you and which decision it changes. Today, I am going to do what the agency does not: walk you through 4 groups, find yours, and show you the one number that matters most. That number you just heard is not a guess, and it is not a scare tactic. It comes straight from the Social Security Administration's own example. But here is what the agency does not do. It does not sit down with your household and tell you which piece of the 2026 update applies to you and which decision it changes. That is what the next few minutes are for. Grab a pen, write down 4 headings. Group 1, already receiving Social Security. Group 2, born 1955 to 1959. Group 3, born 1960 to 1964. Group 4, born 1965 to 1967. At least one of those groups is yours, and if it is not yours, it belongs to someone sitting across the table from you or someone you talk to every week. These numbers change every single year. The cost of living adjustment changes, the taxable earnings maximum changes, the earnings test limits change, the bend points in the benefit formula change. Social Security publishes every one of those numbers, but publishing is not the same as explaining. The people subscribed to this channel find out what the numbers mean before the money slips away. Subscribe now and let's get into it. Before we go further, I need to address something because people hear a title like Born Before 1967 and immediately sort themselves into one of 2 groups. The first group is comfortable. Some savings, maybe a paid-off home, maybe still working part-time or consulting, and they figure this is for people in worse shape than they are. The second group is living on a fixed income, counting every deposit, and they have learned to assume the big strategies are always for someone else. Both of those assumptions are wrong about at least one of the items I am covering today, and on every single one, I will tell you exactly which group it helps most and why. One of these items is for people already receiving checks. One is for people who misunderstand their retirement age. One is for workers who claimed early and kept earning wages. And the last one is for people who have not filed yet. And that is the one with the biggest monthly gap if they get it wrong. Stay till the end because that final group has the most time to avoid the mistake and the most money on the table. Now let's start where the checks are already arriving. Number 1, the 2026 cost of living adjustment. If you are already receiving Social Security right now, your check changed in January 2026. The adjustment is called a COLA, cost of living adjustment. In plain English, it is the annual inflation increase that Social Security adds to your monthly benefit. The 2026 COLA is 2.8%. That applies to benefits payable to nearly 71 million Social Security beneficiaries, and the increased payments began with January 2026. Now, here is the misconception. A lot of people hear COLA and think the 2026 change is just a raise, something nice, something extra. It is not a mystery bonus. For the average retired worker, the estimated monthly benefit went from $2,015 to $2,071. That is a $56 per month increase. Over the next year, that is $672 before any future adjustments. For an older couple where both receive benefits, the average increase is $88 a month. That is $1,056 over the next year. Those numbers are real, but here is what matters more than the size of the COLA. It is not the whole story. The 2026 update is not one change. It is a set of new numbers across multiple rules, and the COLA is the only one that shows up in your deposit automatically. Everything else I am about to cover requires you to understand it before you file, or before you make an earning decision. Nobody sends a letter that explains the rest. Who does this help most? If you are on a fixed income, even $56 a month has to be measured against what Medicare premiums, groceries, rent, and utilities are doing at the same time. You need to verify that the number in your deposit matches the notice, and if you are comfortable, you still want to check. Deposits can be wrong. The COLA notice is available in your My Social Security Message Center at ssa.gov. Pull it up and compare it to your January 2026 deposit. That is the action. That is number 1. That was the number for people already receiving checks. The next one is for people who think they already know their retirement age. Number 2. Full retirement age is not one age. If you were born between 1955 and 1959, your full retirement age, the age at which your retirement benefit is no longer reduced for filing early, is not 65, it is not 66, and it is not 67. It is somewhere in between, and the exact number depends on your birth year down to the month. Born in 1955, your full retirement age is 66 and 2 months. Born in 1956, it is 66 and 4 months. Born in 1957, 66 and 6 months. Born in 1958, 66 and 8 months. Born in 1959, 66 and 10 months. Born in 1960 or later, it is 67. That 2-month difference between birth years might sound small. It is not small in dollars. Here's a clean example. Say your base benefit, what Social Security calls your primary insurance amount, is $2,000 a month. If you claim at 62, that benefit is reduced by up to 30%. 30% of $2,000 is $600 less every single month. That is $7,200 a year. Over 20 years of receiving checks, that is $144,000 in smaller monthly payments. That is not a penalty you pay once. It is a permanent reduction that applies to every check for the rest of your life. And it hinges on knowing your exact full retirement age, not a rounded number you heard somewhere. Who does this help? Both groups. If you are on a fixed income and thinking about claiming soon, you cannot afford to guess your FRA and accidentally lock in a bigger reduction than you expected. And if you are comfortable, do not assume you are past the danger zone. Household timing and survivor benefit rules can still be affected by when you filed relative to your true FRA. Here is your action. Before you choose a filing date, look up your exact full retirement age by birth year and birth month. You can find it on the SSA Retirement Planner at ssa.gov or through your My Social Security account. If you want to call, the number is 1-800-772-1213. Use the exact words, "I need my full retirement age for retirement benefits, not just the earliest age I can claim." That is number 2. Knowing your full retirement age is one thing. Working before you reach it is where the next rule quietly catches people. Number 3. Claiming early while working can trigger withholding. Now, everything I have covered so far has been about what Social Security adds to your check, the COLA increase and the base benefit amount. This next one is different. This is about what Social Security can temporarily take back out. I need you to hear this one carefully because this is the rule that surprises people the most. It is called the Retirement Earnings Test. In plain English, if you claim Social Security before your full retirement age and you keep working, Social Security may withhold part of your benefit when your wages go over the yearly limit. In 2026, if you are under full retirement age for the entire year, the earnings limit is $24,480 per year. That works out to $2,040 per month. If you earn more than that from work, Social Security withholds $1 for every $2 you earn above the line. In the year you actually reach full retirement age, the line is higher, $65,160 per year, or $5,430 per month, and the withholding is gentler, $1 for every $3 above the limit, counted only for the months before you hit FRA. Starting the month you reach full retirement age, there is no earnings limit at all. Here is who this hits. If you are comfortable and still consulting, contracting, or working part-time, this is the one that catches you. You assumed retired means the earnings test does not apply. It does, until the month you reach full retirement age. And if you were on a fixed income and took early benefits because you needed cash flow, but kept working to fill the gap, you may not realize that the job you took to supplement Social Security is the reason part of your Social Security check is being held back. A viewer wrote in about a situation like this. Daniel, 64, outside Phoenix, former maintenance supervisor. He claimed early, then kept working part-time. He expected the COLA increase but did not understand the earnings test. When he estimated his 2026 work income at $34,480, that put him $10,000 over the $24,480 limit. At $1 withheld for every $2 over the line, Social Security can withhold $5,000 of his benefits for that year. $5,000. Not because he did something wrong, because the system has a rule it does not explain when you file. Now, this withholding is temporary. Social Security recalculates your benefit at FRA to account for the month's benefits were withheld. But the cash flow hit in the meantime is real, and it surprises people who plan their household budget around a check that then gets reduced. Here is your action step. Before you claim early while working, or if you have already claimed and your earnings are changing, call Social Security at 1-800-772-1213. Use the exact words, "I am under full retirement age and may work in 2026. I need to know how the retirement earnings test applies to my expected wages." Do this before filing, and again whenever your earnings change. That is number 3. That rule affects people already collecting. The final one affects people who have not filed yet, and that is where the biggest check size difference appears. Number 4. The benefit formula is changing before you file. If you were born between 1965 and 1967, you are not receiving Social Security yet. You are approaching it, and the number that matters most to you right now is not the COLA. The COLA applies to people already collecting. Your number is buried deeper, in the formula Social Security uses to calculate your benefit in the first place. Here is how it works. Social Security takes your lifetime earnings, adjusts them for wage growth, and calculates something called your AIME, Average Indexed Monthly Earnings. In plain English, that is the average of your highest earning years, adjusted to today's dollars. Then it runs that average through a 3-bracket formula to produce your PIA, Primary Insurance Amount. That is your base monthly benefit at full retirement age. The formula uses $2 thresholds, called Ben points. Think of them as the lines between tax brackets, except these are benefit brackets. In 2026, those Ben points are $1,286 and $7,749. The formula gives you 90% of every dollar of your average up to the first Ben point, 32% of every dollar between the 2 Ben points, and 15% of every dollar above the second one. Those Ben points apply to workers who become first eligible in 2026, generally people turning 62 that year. If you were born in 1964, that is you. If you were born in 1965 to 1967, you are close, and the framework is the same even though your exact Ben points will be set in your eligibility year. Now here is where the money gets real. Social Security published an example of a worker who earned the maximum taxable amount every year since age 22 and retires at 62 in 2026. That worker's average indexed monthly earnings come out to $14,358. Run that through the formula, and the primary insurance amount is $4,216.90 per month. But that is the benefit at full retirement age. Claiming at exactly 62 means a 30% reduction. 30% of $4,216.90 leaves a monthly check of about $2,951.83. The monthly gap between the unreduced amount and the age 62 amount is $1,265.07 every single month. That is $15,180.84 per year. Over 20 years of checks, that is $303,616.80 in smaller monthly payments. That is the number from the top of this video. It is not a penalty. It is not money taken away. It is the difference in check size between claiming at the earliest possible age and waiting for the full amount. And for a maximum earnings worker, it is over $300,000. The misconception for this group is thinking the COLA is the number that matters before you file. It is not. What matters is whether your earnings record is correct, whether you understand which Ben points apply to your eligibility year, and whether you have compared the benefit estimate at 62, at full retirement age, and at 70. Consider a worker named Linda. She is 61, outside Toledo, retired from years as a school cafeteria worker, and now doing seasonal payroll work. She heard about the 2026 COLA and assumed that was the number she needed to know. But she is not receiving checks yet. Her real issue was the benefit formula and whether her earnings record was accurate before she became eligible. She opened her My Social Security account and checked her earnings year by year. The exact result depends on her record, but the action itself is what matters, because the 2026 formula uses $1,286 and $7,749 as Ben points for workers becoming eligible that year, and every year of correct earnings history feeds directly into that calculation. Who does this help most? Both groups, but especially anyone who has not filed yet. If you are on a fixed income and approaching 62, understanding the formula means understanding exactly how much each year of earnings changes your check. And if you are comfortable and assume your benefit will just be high enough, the gap between claiming at 62 and waiting can be over $1,000 a month. That is not a rounding error, that is household income. The 2026 maximum taxable earnings cap is $184,500, up from $176,100. The maximum Social Security benefit for a worker retiring at full retirement age in 2026 is $4,152 per month. And the quarter of coverage amount, the earnings needed to earn one credit toward eligibility, is $1,890 in 2026. None of these numbers arrive at your kitchen table with an explanation. Social Security does not call before you file and walk you through the formula. That is not how the system works. The system publishes. It does not explain. Here is your action. Open your My Social Security account at ssa.gov. Check your earnings record year by year. Then compare your benefit estimate at 62, at full retirement age, and at 70. Use the exact words. I want to verify my earnings record before I file, because my benefit is based on my lifetime earnings and the formula for my eligibility year. Do this before your first claim. That is number 4. So here is the full picture. If you already receive Social Security, the 2026 COLA is 2.8%, and the average retired worker increase is about $56 a month. Check your COLA notice in My Social Security and compare it to your January 2026 deposit. If you were born 1955 to 1959, your full retirement age is not a round number. It is 66 and 2 months through 66 and 10 months, depending on your birth year. Look it up before you choose a filing date. If you were born 1960 to 1964 and you claimed before full retirement age while still working, the 2026 earnings test limit is $24,480 or $65,160 in the year you reach FRA. Call Social Security before your earnings change. If you were born 1965 to 1967, the 2026 formula numbers show why checking your earnings record and comparing estimates at 62, FRA, and 70 is worth doing now before you file. The COLA notice does not explain your household strategy. The full retirement age chart does not call you before you file. The earnings test does not wait until you understand it. The bend point formula does not show up in plain English on your kitchen table. Being legally entitled to a benefit and actually receiving the right benefit at the right time are two different things. The gap between them is information, and that is exactly why this channel exists. Now I'm going to ask you to do one thing before you close this video. Think of one person you know who was born before 1967, a spouse, a sibling, a neighbor, a friend from church, a former coworker. Not because they are careless, because the system is built in numbers, and most people are never told which number is theirs. Send them this video. It takes 5 seconds, and it might be worth more than 5 seconds to someone making a decision this year about when to claim, whether to keep working, or whether their check is right. Subscribe. Share this with someone born before 1967, and I'll see you in the next one.